All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. My name is John Donadio. I'm the Executive Director of the New Jersey Association of Counties, and I'm going to welcome you to our first virtual workshop of the year. And this is a big one on changes to legal notice publication requirements. We're going to have two special guests with us here today. We're going to talk about the bill that Governor Murphy signed into law that NJAC, the League of Municipalities, and the School Boards Association have been advocating for these changes for Jesus, well over a decade, maybe even longer, that now allow local governments to publish their notices online or on a website, on their website as well. Before I make our introductions, though, I want to take a minute to go over a couple of housekeeping items. If you have a question throughout the discussion, make sure you put it in the Q&A, and we'll either get to it at that time, or when we wrap up, we'll get to your question. If we like the question. I'm just kidding. We'll get to all your questions if we can. We'll also make sure to make this video available on our website, as long as that's okay with Jason, following the presentation. So in case you missed it or anyone else missed it, we'll make sure to get back to you. So with that, I first again want to thank Angela Wolf and her great company for being here today and taking care of this virtual workshop for us. We appreciate it. She does a terrific job, and I would encourage you to use her video conferencing services and all the other things that she does if you need them. And with that, I'm happy to introduce first Mr. Jason Martucci. I'm sure you all know Jason. Jason is just an invaluable resource at the Division of Local Government Services. I appreciate all his support and help and assistance throughout the years. When I asked him to do this, he didn't hesitate. So Jason will be here today leading this. He's a legislative and regulatory affairs officer for the Division of Local Government Services. And he's joined by Marcus Jones, who is relatively new, right? Marcus, to the division. He's a regulatory officer, and he's going to learn a great deal from Mr. Martucci. So with that, Jason, I'm going to turn it over to you, and I can't thank you enough for being here today. Again, this is probably the most popular virtual workshop that we've done in 3 or 4 years that we've been doing it. It's a really important and hot topic. So the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, John. It's an honor as always. We work extensively with New Jersey Association of Counties, and this is definitely a very timely topic. We've done some presentations on this. As you know, Local Finance Notice 2026-1 goes into this topic quite extensively, and our presentation is substantially based on the guidance that we've issued. Presenting here with me today is a recent addition to our policy team, Marcus Jones. So he will be presenting on some of the slides. We'll be alternating. So I guess without further ado, we'll begin. And pardon me, my voice might be a little bit gravelly, so if you need me to speak up, let me know. So as we begin with the PowerPoint. Okay. Angela, is everything good?
Just one moment, please.
Okay. So so this law has been, pardon me. This law was signed back on June 30th of last year, and reflects the transition from print newspapers to online platforms. So, pardon me, it left everything status quo until March 1st of this year. Excuse me, pardon me a moment. Thank you. Sound a little bit better now. So if you go on to the next slide, to see the bill was signed into law in June of last year. It's really kind of left everything status quo until March 1st, which is fast coming upon us. Now, everything's status quo in terms of the newspapers we had been publishing remain to be published. Now, after March 1st, A public entity's legal notices must be published on a dedicated legal notices webpage that's located on the public entity's website. Now, this applies to state as well as local governments. Legal notices from corporations, individuals, or any other non-public entities must be placed in an online news publication. And we'll get to that in a moment. Next slides. So probably the next slide after. Okay. So when we talk about key terms, right? Will be four. Legal notice. What's a legal notice? Essentially, it means any resolution, official proclamation, notice or advertisement of any kinds, character, such as for a public hearing on an ordinance, a bid solicitation for a procurement, anything that is essentially legal notice now. And what is an online news publication? It's really a news publication in electronic format that contains news on matters of public concern and has published news predominantly in the English language at least once per week for at least 1 year continuously. Now, there's a lot more to what constitutes an online news publication for purposes of them being able to accept a publication of a legal notice, and we'll get to that in a few moments. So on to the next slide, you'll see a couple further definition key terms. What's a public entity? Like we said, essentially any state agency or local government entity, any other political subdivision. Local government unit means county, municipality. Whenever we think of local units, that's pretty much encompasses that term. Boards of education as well, and including any board or commission, your county parks commission, for example. Those entities that are essentially publishing their own notices. So those are encompassed by this law as well. So on to the next slide. You'll see, what are the requirements for public entity legal notices that are published after March 1st? Like we said, a public entity must display a legal notice on a dedicated legal notices webpage. A direct hyperlink for which shall be conspicuously placed on the official website's homepage. What is conspicuous displacement? It's not defined in the law, but it's basically having a readily understandable title. We suggest current legal notices or something of that nature to make it obvious. Okay, here's where to the public, here's where they find legal notices, the current legal notices. Having an easy to read font in terms of size and design, placing that link in a central location that is readily visible and available without extensive scrolling, and something that converts easily to a mobile-friendly format. As we're aware, many people primarily access the internet and websites through through their phones or an iPad. Now, a legal notice must be conspicuously displayed for at least 1 week from the date of initial posting, or such other time periods may be required by law, when we call current legal notice. So let's just say you have a bid solicitation, and that has to be out standard at least 10 days. It has to be on the current legal notices webpage for at least 10 days. If there's nothing in the statute that talks about how long in advance a notice must be published, the default is 1 week. Now on to the next slide. On the current legal notices webpage, what needs to appear on there? Well, it could either be a direct display of the full legal notice text or a link to the PDF of each legal notice. This may depend on the formatting, your volume of legal notices. If we're dealing with counties, it's going to probably be a greater frequency, a greater volume than in a small municipality. So you may err toward the PDF. But if you're doing that, if you ensure that each link's title adequately and accurately reflects the legal notice's content. Again, this is for the benefit of the public. We want to make sure that they're that they can reasonably understand what this is. So they know that if they're, interests them, they could be able to click on it. But whichever method is used, again, make sure the public access is as user friendly as possible. So on to the next slide. There's also an obligation to archive public notices. So by no later than March 1st, a public entity must start maintaining an internet archive of legal notices taken down from its current legal notices webpage. Now, an archive must be published on the public entity's official website by no later than July 1st. So an archive legal notice must be maintained on the public entity's internet archive for at least 1 year after having been transferred from its webpage for current legal notices. So you have the bid solicitation example. That time is the 10 days or the 20 days in the case of competitive contracting. Let's say that's expired. Bids are in. Then that notice gets taken down from the current legal notices webpage, and that goes to the Internet Archive, and it must be maintained there for at least 1 year. Now, the archive webpage is not subject to any records retention schedule. It's adopted by the State Records Committee, and it's not under the Destruction of Public Records Law of 1953. So on to the next slide. When we're looking at the link for the online for the archive, division recommends making that link easily accessible. The conspicuous display requirement in the law wasn't used for the Internet Archive link as it was for the current legal notices link. But still, in the interest of transparency and the interest of ease of public use and access, again, make it easily accessible. We also suggest including the link to the public entity's website homepage and the archive notices at the bottom of the current legal notices webpage. The full text of archive legal notices should be accessible either as a linked PDF or directly embedded or on the Internet Archive. Again, just with the same formatting considerations as before. Now, Marcus is going to go a little bit into. We go to the next slide. This isn't in the law. This isn't in the legal notices law, but it's an important component of implementation. It has to do with the overall website and ADA compliance. So, Marcus, if you can talk for a bit about that.
Sure. So local government units have to be compliant with the Americans with Disabilities Act. So while they're implementing this, so the compliance needs to be in regards to the design principles. In particular, the Department of Justice's final rule from 2024, which generally requires states and local web content and mobile apps to meet the web content accessibility guidelines, 2.1 level AA, and then local government units to review this with their webmaster as well as legal counsel. The compliance date is different depending on the size. So any local government over 50,000 is this upcoming April 24th. And then local government and special district governments, or local governments less than 50,000 and special district governments, it's next April 26th, so of 2027. You can go to the next slide. So the standards themselves follow 4 core principles, which has acronym of POUR. So perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. So for perceivable, that means that users must be able to perceive the content. And under that, there's a criteria of it being text alternatives, time-based media, adaptable, extinguishable. In terms of operable, that means that users must be able to use interface. In terms of understandable, That means lets me understand they must be able to understand the interface, and then robust is in regards to content, and that's being compatible with different user tools. You can go to the next slide. So in regards to level AA in particular, so this final rule updates it's a prior set of standards. So and these right here are the ones that are related to AA. So orientation, which is in relation to the contents view and operations, must be functional in both portrait and landscape. So this is largely in regards to when you're using on a mobile app or mobile device. In regards to identity input purpose, is just in regard so common fields, so name, address, email must be programmably identifiable for autofill and assistive text. In regards to reflow, it's in regards to content being able to be enlarged without scrolling up to 400 zoom. So if you ever use like Word, it's kind of that, whereas it grows, you're still able to see it without having to scroll over. In regards to non-text contrast, that's in relation to being able to see it of at least 3.3 to 1 without against adjacent colors. Text spacing is in regards to users must be able to increase line height spacing and word spacing without break content on hover or focus. This just requires that the content is shown when you hover over it or is keyboard focus, that it could be dismissed, but while you're hovering over it, that remains visible long enough for you to be able to read it. And then status messages, this requires that important status updates are announced to the screen reader users without moving the keyboard focus. You go to the next slide.
So yeah, but it's something we definitely encourage counties, local governments to consult with their webmasters and potentially their legal counsel to ensure that their website is compliant. Obviously, in the counties, you're looking at April 24th of this year as a to implement, and you may also want to get with your, to the extent you have a parks commission or, independent the county commissions or county libraries, to really ensure that they're, to the extent that they're not already aware that they need to be compliant. And this kind of goes for online, the whole online notice requirement in general. Kind of in our experience, we've done outreach on this, that, the municipalities, the clerks, obviously counties are aware of the obviously of the requirements. Some of the authorities are as well, but we want to make sure that especially the smaller local units of government, that they're they're up to speed as well as much as we can get the word out. So yes, starting on January 1st of this year, and at least twice per month through December 31st, the law requires that each public entity advertises an online news publication that states the complete text of each legal notice may be obtained or viewed by the public on the public entity's official internet website. And we recommend that once that link is up for the current legal notices webpage, that be included in that bi-monthly advertisement. Once the New Jersey Secretary of State, and we'll get to this in a moment, fully establishes their central legal notices hyperlink internet webpage, that hyperlink needs to be included as well. So if we go on to the next slide. Public entity has a discretion, and we say public entity, it's state and local government entities. They have the discretion to publish or advertise a legal notice separately on an online news publication. The default is they have to publish it on their website, but there's also the option to publish in an online news publication. And besides the definition we gave at the beginning, there's a number of other criteria they need to meet in terms of views that are equivalent to that are basically translates the circulation requirement for print publications into the online news context. So if an online news publication falsely represents that they meet the statutory requirements and they don't, they may face enforcement action by the Attorney General's office. Next slide.
Hey, Jason,
Sure.
if you don't mind taking a quick break, we've got about 3 questions, and maybe we should get ahead of them if you don't mind. I think you're
Not a
actually
problem.
get to this one, but this was one of the first ones that we were posted. I'll answer the one that just went up. Do we know when the Secretary of State will provide the required link? I don't think we know the answer to that yet. I'll defer to Jason and Marcus, but I think we don't know the answer to that yet.
Right. Yeah, they set up the initial page, but it's under development. So when it goes live, we'll be sending out an announcement.
Right. And I think you're going to cover this. Where do we submit our legal notice URL?
That'll be yes, we'll be covering that as well. That would be we'll probably in a few slides we'll be discussing that. Now this is to the Secretary of State's webpage, correct?
I assume that's it.
Yes,
If not,
yes.
please, whoever answered that presented that question, go back into the Q&A and ask again. Let's see. Is there a difference between legal and public notices?
Where they're the same thing. Now, if we're talking about public, we're going to be talking about legal notices that have to be published by private entities. Those, and we'll be talking about, they have to publish in an online news publication. There's of course the option to, like let's just say in the context of a land use application or a liquor license application or transfer place to place. They need to be published in the newspaper to the extent they're required to under law, the applicant. But of course, the public entity, the local government unit, can choose to also include that legal notice, that public notice on their website as well. That's at the option of the local unit.
And then last one, and then I won't bug you anymore until the next question. Are the WCAG rules, are they self-policed? And that's what is that? The Web Content Applicability Guidelines? Did I get that right?
Yes. It's interesting. I think they wouldn't be, I mean, these are federal standards. They may be, and Marcus, maybe, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it would probably be the same and similar enforcement to the ADA, like ADA compliance in general. Like if you're looking at private causes of action, and if you're looking at civil rights, going to be Civil Rights Division and the Department of Justice. That I imagine is where the enforcement will primarily lie. Marcus, is that kind of your sense as well?
Yeah, it's largely, I guess, like private cause action. So yeah, they're like it's largely, I guess, meant for guidance. And there's some wiggle room in terms of how you can apply it in particular situations. But if you're not necessarily following it similar to the ADA, then there's federal causes of action for a particular incident.
Right. So yeah, again, consult with your webmaster and your legal counsel to ensure you're compliant. So as we kind of going on, after March 1st, like we said, whenever a corporation, individual, or any other non-public entity is required to publish or advertise a legal notice, they have to place the notice in online news publication. That online news publication, again, has to meet certain statutory criteria that we're going to get to in a moment. A private individual entity must select the online news publication based on the geographic target established or implied under the law, court order, or court rule requiring publication. Local government units should provide guidance to private individuals or entities about this distribution requirement. And on to the next slide. So when we're looking at further requirements, online news publication must not charge a fee or require registration or subscription to view the legal notices. The price to publish all legal notices or legal notices in an online news publication must not exceed the rates that are established by the statute. So unless otherwise provided by law or court order, that notice must be published by the online news publication within 24 hours of receipt, must be maintained for at least 1 week. Think of it as similar to what's in the online news, what's required on the current legal notices webpage. Now, Marcus will go into further detail on those statutory requirements in the next few slides. Next slide.
Yeah, so a public entity must provide notice in a prominent location on its internet website of the availability of the legal notices on the online news publication, featuring a hyperlink to the publication. The online news publication must include the number of monthly unique website visits and monthly unique website visits by users and in the state, in the particular state, in each county, through IP address, which must be prominently displayed on the internet homepage of the publication, along with other criteria provided in the statute, or hyperlink to a website displaying this criteria, and whether the online news publication meets each criteria. You go next slide. So the required reach of each of online news publications is broken down by municipal-wide, county-wide, and then statewide. So under statute, to qualify as online news publication eligible to publish for municipal-wide circulation, it must receive 4,000 unique monthly visits on average as calculated annually. No less than 50% of which must be from an IP address within a applicable municipality or within 10-mile radius. In terms of countywide circulation, it must receive 50,000 unique monthly visits annually, and with no less than 50% being from that county or within 10-mile radius. And then statewide is 300,000 unique monthly visits annually, with at least 50% being from the state. You go next slide. And then for municipal-wide circulation, a public entity should obtain monthly proof from the online news publication of satisfying the minimum visit criteria, and reference these minimum thresholds and guiding individuals and private entities who are required to publish. Certain laws specify different circulation areas. So if a legal notice must publish in a newspaper circulating on a regional basis, local units should verify the view count within certain regions to the extent practicable. If the law specifies, for example, that a newspaper circulation area covering a portion of municipality, the local unit must rely on municipal-wide circulation unless there's another way to give more precise breakdown. You go next slide.
Hey, Marcus, before we move into the next slide, and Jason too, we're getting a number of questions that I think are on topic of what you just covered. So if we could just take a minute to answer them, because I think if we wait to the end, we might be here till noon sometime tomorrow. So we'll try to cover them now. The first question is, does the legal notice have to be published once or twice a month?
Are we talking about the bi-monthly? It sounds like we're talking about the announcement that gets published throughout 2026.
Right.
If that's the case, it's twice per month.
Per month, correct. Okay. that's the announcement, right? That you'll be publishing the notices on your website or wherever
Correct.
you publish. Correct. Okay.
Correct.
If that didn't answer your question, you could ask another one. So this one, public entities are required to publish in an online news publication starting in January of 2026, even though the law is effective March 1st, 2026. I think Jason, again, I'll defer to you. I'll let you answer that question. I think I know the answer, but
That's the announcement. That's that announcement requirement.
Cool.
So that's the announcing. It's basically meant to inform the public. Listen, if you're looking for legal notices, they're on the website.
Right,
So it's really meant as a public information tool.
right. And then after that time, then it's just the once a month, correct?
No, it's only through this year.
Right, got it. Okay, gotcha. Okay. It will TLGS or Secretary of State have an example of what the notice should look like?
It's really we've gotten asked this question, and we didn't include it in the local finance notice, but we've essentially had something sketched out to where right now, like until it's relatively simple. So it's just basically right now, since the Secretary of State's website's not live at this point, it's essentially just a plain announcement that the current legal notices will be on the divisions, not on the division's website, pardon me, on the public entity, the local government unit's website. We could certainly that's something we're thinking about publishing, because that's that's a question that we have received, but it's not meant to be anything relatively complicated. It's just as long as that uh, as long as that content's there, you be compliant with the law.
Great. A couple more, and then I promise we'll get back to the presentation. If a public entity chooses to also publish in an online newspaper, does the public entity still have to provide the hyperlink to the newspaper publication on its own website?
Yes.
Okay. When you say monthly proof, what does that look like?
Well, that may vary. Now, this is monthly proof in the context of the online news publication. So the reason we say that is because the law requires that the countywide circulation and statewide circulation, the proof be supplied directly on the online news publications website. But that's not the similar case for the municipal circulation. So it's basically it's just a confirmation. We recommend on a monthly basis that to the extent that there's a circulation requirement for a month, on the municipal level, that you're basically confirming, to the extent that it's not already provided by the online news publication. It's just a confirmation that they are compliant with the law in that regard.
Okay, I'm just going to do two more, and then we'll move it. We'll get back to these questions.
Sure.
Would posting on your own website be sufficient, or do we need to publish on a separate legal publishing site?
On the public entity's website is sufficient, but it has to be a dedicated web page on the public entity's website. There is the option, again, there is also the option of publishing an online news publication. And even though the law doesn't state it, if the local government entity wishes to also continue to publish legal notices, to the extent there's a printed newspaper that's circulated in their community, there's nothing preventing that either.
All right. We have two more questions. Do you have a mock-up schedule calendar on what compliance looks like with seasonally required notification?
No, we do not. There are a couple examples, and we could maybe talk offline, or you could send send us an email separately in terms of what kind of what's kind of what you're thinking of in that context. We might be able to provide some more assistance. But no, we don't have any models mocked up for that now.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then last one until a little bit later. So some folks are concerned about the online publication being able to publish any legal notice, not the announcement, within 24 hours upon receipt of the notice. This individual reached out to an online publication. They wanted to charge a fee of $50 to get it online within the next day or within 48 hours.
Well, they're required to do so under law. I mean, that's really the best thing we could say to that. They're in terms of charges, and this is a good segue into that. In terms of charges, online news publications are limited to what's under the statute right now for circulation, like in terms of a print publication. Now there's a statutory charge per line. And one thing, and we've been asking local units, and maybe this is something that we could, kind of could be put in the chat, or we could talk about offline, is we're wondering if any counties are encountering this with online news publications to where they're saying that this, the minimum charges do not, translate to the statutory charge does not translate to the online news publication context. We've heard that in a couple of instances, but we're wondering how widespread that is. So it'd be good to know, to the extent we can provide supplemental guidance on that, or if it's kind of an issue that goes beyond it. So it would be interesting to see if that's being encountered more widely. But kind of going toward further outreach too, to the extent that and in the municipal context, you're looking at, could be a local senior housing community centers, email listservs, text message, community alerts. In the county context, this is probably going to be county-based facilities, county recreation facilities. To the extent there's additional outreach that you could just post notices, that bi-monthly notice, essentially that where legal notices can be found. We encourage further outreach to the extent practical. So on to the next slide. So where a law allows legal notice to summarize a document, wherever it's feasible, local units, government units should consider publishing the entire document. Every local unit must publish, like for the case of audit synopsis, every local unit must publish the synopsis of audit as a legal notice on its website, regardless of whether or not it makes its full audit report available on the website, because that is a separate statutory requirement. So on to the next slide. This has been asked previously in terms of the statewide webpage. No later than March 1st, the Secretary of State is supposed to establish an internet webpage, which will include hyperlinks to the current legal notices webpage of each public entity. Each public entity must submit their initial hyperlink before March 1st. Any further hyperlink updates must thereafter be communicated to the Secretary of State. This is currently in progress. You see the the web address. They're published posted on the screen. Local government entities are strongly encouraged to standardize the location of your public notices webpage. This is going to make it easier for the Secretary of State to ensure the accuracy of each link. And we just posted an example of a format. So, if you are updating your link, just make sure to the extent possible that the link is as similar as possible. So standardization is strongly encouraged. So on to the next slide. So we go to proof of publication. Public entities should maintain a record demonstrating that proof For online news publications, consider replicating the current format of affidavits of publication in an official newspaper. For legal notices that are published on the current legal notices webpage, confer with your webmaster on methods that prove the notice appeared on the legal notices webpage during the required period. It could be a screenshot, could be some other proof that the webmaster can provide. It's really for the local government unit's protection in the event there's a legal challenge to an action. Another potential option, again, is for the webmaster, for the official responsible for publishing the notice, to complete or maintain a certification with start or end date of when it appeared, the notice appeared on the web page, as well as a statement that the legal notice was published on the website in such a manner as required pursuant to law. So again, it's just something for the protection of the local government unit. So on to the next slide. The statute does provide protection. The law does provide protection for local government units. Legal notices will not be deemed defective if there are circumstances that are outside the public entity's control that prevent the publishing, posting, or display of the legal notice, or on the online news publication. So we go to the next slide. These circumstances include, but we're not limited to, an error in content or form of the legal notice. Again, if the error was on the online news publication's end, or was on the end of kind of an outside vendor, there's a temporary outage that's outside of the fault of the legal entity, or a cyber attack, cybersecurity incident. Again, these are things that are meant if it's outside the control and there was a gap in terms of when the notice appeared, that is the local government unit is held harmless. But one thing to note is really that means outside the control. So if there are cybersecurity measures that the local government unit can take, they need to be taking them. This is in the interest of public access and transparency. Just like you would just with your general website and just with your with your cybersecurity protocol in general. To the extent that you can protect the functionality, protect from outside attacks or outages, please do so. Again, this is meant for public access and transparency. So, to the extent that's reasonable, extent that's possible, please ensure that everything is functional, everything is protected from a cybersecurity standpoint. So on to the next slide. Online, with respect to the posting of the legal notices, public places, that remains. That has not been changed. 2025 Chapter 72 does not supplant physical posting when it's specifically required under another law. And even when it's not specifically required to do so by statute or regulation, local government units should be posting those legal notices on a publicly accessible bulletin board in their administration building. So we go on to the next slide. Marcus can go a little bit into required website content for local authorities, boards, and commissions.
Yes. So local authority and fire district budgets must include a certification stating that their website complies with the minimum requirements set forth in statutes, in these two statutes respectively. And then the 2011 law requires each of the following entities to maintain an internet website or a web page on municipalities or county's website. I'm not sure why it's not showing up. Could you click to see if it's going to show up? If not, I can read it out. Okay, so I'll read it out. So so local authorities, including regional authorities, fire districts, soil conservation districts, county park commissions, regional health commissions, joint insurance funds, municipal UEZ development corporations, and then environmental authorities, boards, and commissions. You can go on to the next slide. And then in addition to the legal notices, entities are required to post the following information on their web pages starting March 1st. So description of the entities, mission and responsibilities, the entities, official policy statements deemed relevant by a governing body with respect to interests of the residents within the service area or jurisdiction, budgets for the current fiscal year and two immediately preceding years, the most recent comprehensive annual financial report, unaudited, and other similar financial information, and the complete annual audit for the most recent and two immediately preceding fiscal years. You go to the next slide. And then notice posted pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act for each meeting of the entity, setting forth the date, location, agenda of each meeting, approved meeting minutes, including all resolutions for at least for the last three consecutive fiscal years, the name, mailing address, email address if available, and phone number of every person who exercises day-to-day supervision or management over some or all operations of the entity, and lists of attorneys, advisors, consultants, any other person, firm, business partnerships, corporations, or other organizations which receive any remuneration of 17,500 or more during the preceding fiscal year for any services whatsoever rendered to the entity. There you go, next slide.
So basically, when we're talking about county municipal websites, pardon me, they don't have the same specified requirements, but there are some basic statutory requirements for posting adopted budgets for immediately preceding 3 budget years. Contact information. We also encourage, and this is we encourage, particularly on the municipal side, as far as our best practices inventory. We've historically encouraged this, but it's similar for counties as well. Key contact information for officials, for key officials, or particularly on the public facing side. So on to the next slide. Basically all local units should make public documents available online, AFSs, audits, codified and uncodified ordinances, resolutions, along with the agendas, meeting minutes for all governing body meetings. Also other, boards and commissions should do the same as well. So that's pretty much kind of what we have. Go on to the next slide. If there are any other questions, I know we've answered, quite a few during the presentation, but John, are there any others that have, any other questions that have come up? Again, we're interested in, seeing what else is out there, what other issues are, are arising, to the extent we need to issue any supplemental guidance. So by all means, if there are any additional questions, we're happy to entertain them.
We have about 10 minutes to go, and I'll do my best, Jason, to get through all of these questions. I can tell you that the video recording of this presentation will be made available on our website. And then, Jason, if you're okay, so will this PowerPoint presentation. If not, no worries. But Jason shaking said yes.
Yes,
So we'll
fine.
put the PowerPoint presentation and the video presentation on our website at some point. We have a brand new website, so you can check that out too, and register for our conference while you're there too. We got that coming up in May, and that's a terrific event. So I'm going to do my best to work through all these questions. If I do not get to your question, Jason is kind enough to put his telephone and the email on there. You are welcome to reach out to DLGS directly with your question, and I can promise you that they will get back to you. They do a fantastic job. I don't know that there's an answer to this. We're not certainly don't have any plans to do one, but is there a workshop of the new requirements provided to the newspapers? It seems that they may need to make some changes as well.
We haven't had any plans on this side. It does seem, and we've heard, kind of going back to the earlier question on, the 24-hour requirement, the question of whether or not newspapers are going, to the extent newspapers will comply. That's something we could surely consider.
Mhm.
But yeah, not at this time, no.
Great. Thank you, Jason. Uh, does this new law apply to legal advertising requirements from the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection?
Yes, it applies to all state and local government entities.
Great. All right. So that answers, I think, 2 questions. Let's see. What if local newspapers don't meet the circulation requirements? Unique monthly visits, etc., IP addresses.
Well, to the extent it's an online publication, then it can't post a legal notice.
Okay.
But again, nothing prevents, to the extent there's a printed newspaper that's still out there with local circulation. There's nothing preventing an additional legal notice from being published there.
Alrighty. In reference to a competitive contract RFP, a summary report is required to be posted no less than 48 hours prior to the board vote. We currently post these in our lobby. So they have to be online now.
Now, I don't have the statute in front of me. But, and pardon me, I should know the answer to this off the top of my head, but to the extent it's required, I believe, from what I recall, it's supposed to be made available to the public at least 48 hours. I don't know that there's a requirement that it be published in the newspaper, just to kind of go by what the statutes say. I don't believe so, but it can be, if that's the case, it can be published on the website. I don't know that there's to the extent it's not required to be published as a legal notice, there's not a requirement that it be on the current legal notices webpage. But it could certainly appear there to the extent that the local government unit wishes to.
Great. Thank you, Jason. Just a couple more. The recent LFN noted that county improvement authorities need to list on their websites all individuals, entities that have been under contract with the utility for that year. I thought this was an existing requirement. And why are utilities required to do so when larger governmental entities are not?
Well, by utilities, I mean utilities authorities. Then yes, it applies. That law, it's not a new recent law. Even it goes back to 2011. We felt that with this notice, it would be helpful to kind of provide a refresher on that particular requirement. So that's correct. It's not a new law, but it does apply to improvement authorities as well as to like county, municipal utilities authority or sewerage authority. So it applies to local authorities, also applies to county parks commissions and county library and so on.
So I think someone's asking for clarification on what if our local newspapers don't meet the circulation requirements. I know you addressed that, but I don't know.
I mean, if you mean by online news publication,
Yeah.
there's basic statutory requirements for them being able to host a legal notice. Because don't forget, if it's a private entity that has to publish, they have to publish on an online news website or an online news publication. It has to meet those certain standards. To the extent I think the question is, what if none exist? I don't I think the answer is yes, they do. But if it may be NJ.com, for instance, on a statewide level, even if it's because if you're looking at something that has to be published on a municipal level or
Right.
with municipal circulation, if it's statewide circulation and there's nothing that's otherwise available on the municipal level, I think by default you would need to go to what's more broadly available on a statewide basis.
Right. I think maybe they're asking for clarification on whether or not like it's local tap into meets the criteria. Maybe I'm speculating, but that's where I felt like that question was going.
Yeah, I think you would need to maybe contact them directly to the extent there's a question on that.
Okay. Very, very good. I think we answered this question, but there's a question about whether or not DEP requires certain county agencies, such as the Mosquito Control Commission, to publish certain notices with media organizations. Does this change? Or
Uh,
must-
I don't know the specific requirements. Kind of without seeing the statute specifically, I would say to the extent that DEP has its own individual requirements with respect to certain applications, I would continue to follow their lead. But again, without seeing the specific requirement, it's hard for me to say.
Okay. All right, very good. That sounds like a follow-up question to the DLGS email, and this attendee referenced part of the administrative code that requires certain notice for a mosquito control commission. So I think that does sound like a specific question you can send to division, and they'll give you better guidance on that. I think that's it. I think I answered all those questions. If I didn't, I apologize, but you can again, either telephone or email the division, and they will be happy to get back to you. And I just want to thank everybody for being here today. And most importantly, I want to thank Jason and Marcus for your time and effort in putting this together. This was incredibly helpful, and I appreciate it a great deal. So,
Thank you for having us.
all right,
Thank
man.
you.
Have a great day.
Thank you.